pillars and foundations for ISKCON South Africa, and thank you so much, Miraj, for being with us today. And His Grace Medhavi Das Prabhu is also no stranger. Prabhu has been in contact with the devotees since the early 70s, where he first met them in Memphis, Tennessee, where he joined in Knoxville and joined as a Sankirtan traveling devotee, where he was distributing books, collecting donations. He traveled throughout India. Prabhu, and he was initiated by Srila Prabhupada on the installation ceremony of the Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir in 1975. He has served in various capacities in Mayapur, England, and being a kitchen head, Goshala, and Bhakta leader, training young devotees in January 1980. He first came to South Africa, and from 1981, he was involved in collecting funds for the construction of Sri Radharadhanath Temple of Understanding until its completion. On the first anniversary of Sri Radharadhanath's opening in 1986, he thereafter took up management of the Cape Town Temple. Subsequently, he increased the number to 25 and established the Cape Town Temple as one of the leading book distribution centers in the world. Prabhu now resides in Cape Town and inspiring the Cape Town devotees, and he's here to give us his nectar. And without further ado, I'll now hand over to Maharaj, and thereafter to Medhavi Prabhu, and then Shrutikirti Prabhu. Thank you so much. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Yes. Well, you never know, but more devotees may come, in which case we may, maybe not to, but we may need to scrunch up a bit more. And close association of devotees is just the most wonderful thing. Yeah, okay, so move forward a bit. We don't want to make things uncomfortable, particularly unnecessarily, but okay, well done. Yes, as devotees say, or if you say, that you can come closer, I will not bite you. I am vegetarian. It's okay. So, this evening we're having, of course, a Prabhupada remembrances, Prabhupada Leelas program, and really, well, of course, Medhavi Prabhu is here, and he's just absolutely wonderful as far as that goes. But Shrutikirti Prabhu is coming, and he, I've had some experience with him in this regard, and he is just the master. He's had so much personal experience with Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. And he really expresses it just so nicely. It's amazing. Pastimes and lessons to learn from the pastimes. Let me just, anyway, I don't know if I should do it, but let me just tell you one which I read actually quite some years ago, but he spoke a couple of days ago, must have been in Durban, that he was serving Srila Prabhupada, and one day Prabhupada called him in and said, your name, I think your name is too long. You know the story. Shrutikirti, I think it's too long. Srila Prabhupada said, I will shorten it. From now on, I will call you Shruto. And that lasted for a day or so. Prabhupada went back to the regular program. So, right, Let me just start with a couple of pastimes, which some of you may have heard, all of you might have heard, but as Prabhupada said, repetition of a good thing is good. Srila Prabhupada was in San Diego, staying in the San Diego temple in California, and look who just walked in. Srila Kirti Prabhu King. And his good wife, Vishaka Devi Dasi Ki Jai. And a warm welcome. Warm welcome, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please come and sit on the seat of honor. Probably best not to have that in your face. No, I think, can we come around this way?
The other side, yeah, if you can.
No, I'm sure we can. Right. Well, just for the record, Srila Kirti Prabhu joined Srila Prabhupada's movement in 1971. 1971. So he is at least most senior devotee here. You know, Madhavi Prabhu and I joined somewhat later. Yes, and he personally served Srila Prabhupada for
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yes, and wow, what an experience that must have been. Oh, Krishna. Oh. Anyway, just you'll hear shortly. Right, and this is his second visit to South Africa. He was here previously 6 years ago, and he's here now, and we hope that there'll be a third visit, and a fourth visit, and a fifth, sixth, and 10th and 20th visit, something like that. Right. But anyway, I did mention already a few minutes ago that there's so much nectar, and nectar in terms of different pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, but also very important in terms of lessons, like really important lessons that we can learn from different activities of Srila Prabhupada and his interactions with devotees. He told me a really interesting one today. There was a little group of us having lunch at Sri Hari Prabhu's place. He told me, is it okay if I tell them?
Please, yes.
He told me that Srila Prabhupada, after finishing prasadam, every time would take a toothpick, next thing after finishing actually eating as such, next thing was to take a toothpick and remove all whatever, you know what it's like sometimes, little sticky bits that get caught between the teeth, but remove them all and then rinse his mouth, etc. Because Prabhupada felt he didn't want that some Krishna prasadam, if he just rinsed his mouth straight away, you know, inevitably some will come out. And he didn't want to disrespect Krishna prasadam by just having it washed down the drain. How's that? That's interesting, isn't it? And what to speak of some devotees who make a point of, because they don't want to have too little prasadam, that would be just too terrible. So they make sure they take too much prasadam on their plate, and then they can't finish it. And then, what to speak of rinsing some out. So they may even throw some away. Oh my gosh. Anyway, there's some, shall we say, food for thought there. So I'll say a few words about Srila Prabhupada. Just, I don't want to take up too much time because we really want to give Sridharkirti Prabhu as much time as possible. And then Madhavi Prabhu will say something, and then we'll hand over to Sridharkirti Prabhu. But let me just tell a couple of little stories that I'm fond of. One is from Badrinarayan Maharaj, that he was staying in the San Diego temple in California, and he wasn't the temple president, he was one of the temple devotees, but the temple president knew one life member who would import things including cooking oil, or as we say in Chatsworth, cooking oil. Sorry, I shouldn't have. Excuse me. Yes, so that's an in-joke. So anyway, this devotee, Prabhupada's staying there, and the temple president, this devotee temple president, said to Prabhupada, this one of our close friends, Mr. Such and Such from India, he just received a big shipment of peanut oil, which is used for cooking. Of peanut oil, and he will let us have it for an extremely good price, very cheap. And so I'm thinking of buying quite a bit. And Prabhupada just sort of nonchalantly said, peanut oil is not so good. And the temple president, he thought it was negotiable, shall we say, with Prabhupada. Prabhupada wasn't too emphatic. So he said, but Srila Prabhupada, it is cooking oil, peanut oil, and we'll save so much money, and then we can donate more to your book fund. He thought this was, trying to twist Prabhupada's arm a little. And Prabhupada just sort of shrugged his shoulders and said, well, peanut oil is not so good. And then the temple president tried a third time, and Srila Prabhupada just, pardon the French, Prabhupada said, just do whatever you damn well want. And the temple president now got up, and now he's going out and said, is peanut oil really not so good, actually, Srila Prabhupada? And Srila Prabhupada said, well, I knew one man who one evening, he had a feast of pakoras deep fried in peanut oil. Temple president said to Prabhupada, oh, what happened to him, Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada said, he died the next morning. That was the last mention of peanut oil. They're all, it's nice, a little bit of humor, and even humor directly from Prabhupada as such is always nice. But anyway, I think there's a serious message there. We should really try to do things nicely for Krishna. Then another one, let me just see, what have I got here? I'll just tell you one more. Yes, he said. Okay, another one is actually also from Badrinarayan Swami. He told a few years ago that he had just become temple president I think in San Diego, either that or Laguna Beach, somewhere in California. And Prabhupada visited just very shortly after. He had become, Badrinarayan Prabhu at the time had been appointed temple president. So Prabhupada came and stayed a few days, and Badrinarayan Maharaj wanted to get some, like sort of insights from Prabhupada, how to be a temple president, how to run a temple and look after the devotees, etc. So on one morning walk, with a number of other devotees there, Prabhupada stopped somewhere and said some words, and Badrinarayan Maharaj asked Prabhupada, said, Srila Prabhupada, what are the duties of a temple president? Like, could you please elaborate a little? And Srila Prabhupada looked straight at him and said, temple president is the person who, when anything goes wrong in the temple, it is his fault. So, and let me tell you, this last one from me. This is from Brahmananda Prabhu, who we all know very well, and he said he heard it directly from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada told a joke. Some of you, many of you may have heard this, that in one temple somewhere in ISKCON, one night, there was a big feast. And one of the devotees, he just served the prasadam. Anyway, he just ate as much as he could and more. And last thing he ate was one just golden brown and just kind of like, just glowing with nectar samosa. A nice big one. That was the last thing he ate. And then after that he just collapsed. And he was out for the count till the next morning. Next morning he got up and first thing, what happened? Ran to the bathroom, to the toilet. This is slightly X-rated, as you can. And he passed stool. And he got up and turned around and looked at the stool. According to Bhavananda Prabhu, he heard it actually from Prabhupada directly. So he turned around, the devotee turned around, looked at the stool there in the toilet and said, look at you. Ugh, you're so horrible and smelly and etc., etc. You're terrible. And the stool replied and said, don't talk about me like that. Last night, I was that samosa. And after just one night of association with you, look what happened to me. Sorry. I don't want to cheapen things. Anyway, he claims it came directly from Prabhupada. So, let us lay that he Prabhu. He's a more serious devotee than me. So I'm sure he'll straighten us out. Okay, sorry.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvisesa Sinyavadi. Paschacha. So I'm very happy and I feel very privileged to be here amongst all the wonderful devotees here at Midrand, especially Radhisham Prabhu and others. It's going. I was walking up to the temple room the other morning and I heard the door close in Maharaj's apartment, but I thought it was maybe one of his servants. And I was walking up that incline there with the stick and everything. And then Maharaj passed me and said, "Oh, going like a bomb." So Midrand is going like a bomb. So I'm very happy. When something's healthy, it grows. When something's healthy, it grows. So with Radhisham's guidance, everyone is growing and glowing and glowing. There was one nice memory that one devotee gave. I feel that, of course, it's not possible, as we say in our Gayatri mantras, let us try to understand our spiritual master, who is always in blissful Krishna consciousness. I meditate upon him being enthused as he enthuses us. So let us try. Let us try means it can't be done. But let's try to appreciate and understand the wonderful character of Srila Prabhupada. So devotees have been trying for 50 plus years. But there's no limit to Srila Prabhupada's wonderful qualities. And as Krishna consciousness movement expands, and actually we're understanding more and more about Srila Prabhupada's wonderful qualities. In that way, Lord Chaitanya's movement is still going on. It's not like we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that was 500 years ago. It's still going on, the Krishna consciousness movement, and you are all part of it. So don't try to remember that, and try to become the instruments. Nimitta matram bhavi savasachin. Krishna is telling Arjuna that get up and fight. They're already put to death by my arrangement. And you, O Savyasachin, can be just an instrument in the fight. So that's all we want to be. We just want to be instruments of Lord Krishna and the pure devotees. His Grace Shamlal Prabhu, he would always quote, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janame Janame Hoy E Abhilas. Narottam sings, just let me stay in the association of devotees and perform Krishna consciousness. That's all I want. I don't want the AMG, I don't want the 7 Series, I don't want the Ferrari or the Lamborghini. I just want to stay in the association of devotees and render devotional service. That's perfection. Perfection. So, sometimes we hear different things about Srila Prabhupada, but when we hear the devotee who was there and he presents the story, then you've got some validation. Just like when we speak, we try to quote. We try to quote where what we're saying is from. It's not like we're making anything up ourselves. And whenever we read Shastra, we want to validate what Srila Prabhupada is wanted or said by verse, by canto, chapter, and verse, and other things as well. So his name was Haridas, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who's recently gone back home. So he was a street kid in Mumbai, or anywhere he'd go in India. He was a pickpocket by profession, but not such a good one because he was always getting caught. He was always getting caught. And when he got caught, they'd ask his name, and he would say, in Calcutta, he'd say Mukherjee, and in Bombay, he'd say Shah or Khan or something like that. So he didn't really know. He was just came conscious in the streets of some big city. And he just learned how to be, a thief, basically. So he was in prison the one time. There are 2 or 3 little aspects of his memory. He was in this prison, and somehow or other there was a Back to Godhead magazine there. And there was, as usually inside the cover, there's a nice picture of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was wearing a gold watch. Gold plated, whatever, gold watch. So he boasted to all the prisoners there, see that watch? I'm going to go steal that watch. I'm going to steal that watch. So, as time would have it, he got out, and he went to Hyderabad, and he joined the temple there. And Srila Prabhupada was coming for the installation of the deities and the opening of the temple. So there was a darshan. Devotees were sitting there. Prabhupada got up and walked up to him and said, "You want this watch? Take it." So then he knew, there's someone that knows everything about my heart and my desires. So then he eventually went to Bombay. And somehow some devotees knew of his history. But His Holiness, it was Giriraj Das Brahmachari at the time. Some people say it was Panchadravida Maharaj. But they were working in the kitchen and he was helping. So then he told either Panchadravida or Giriraj Maharaj that he heard there was going to be an initiation ceremony. So he said he wanted to go and see what it was. So then the Prabhu said, "Well, go, but come back quickly, we've got a lot of work to do." So then he was gone for like 15, 20 minutes. And he came back, "What took you so long? What took you so long?" "Well, I got initiated." I said, "What? Get back up there. Get back up there and sit at the fire sacrifice." So what had happened, because Tulsidas knew, he's our former regional secretary here, and in many ways, he was responsible for the construction of the temple. His organizational skills and his business acumen or sense was what got us onto the track of raising the funds for the temple, at least 70% of those funds, which His Holiness Bhakti Priya Maharaj told us the other day. So Tulsidas was there, and Prabhupada Swami told him to sit by the fire. And Tulsidas was so upset, said, "Prabhupada, you can't do that. He's a thief." Prabhupada turned and looked at Tulsidas with a look that could melt stones and told him, "Don't ever tell me that I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing, Prabhupada. Don't ever tell me I don't know what I'm doing." So then later, he was serving Srila Prabhupada as a servant, because he spoke Hindi and he knew the culture and the customs. So he came in one day to Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada was generally very sober, very grave, just like Chaitanya Maharaj. Very grave and sober. So I walked into Prabhupada's room and Prabhupada was chuckling. He was chuckling. And so we asked Prabhupada, "There's something funny?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes. I was thinking of my last life. I was serving my Guru Maharaj." He said, "I was a medical person and I was completely free from any sinful activities. But I was serving my Guru Maharaj, and my Guru Maharaj told me they were staying in some kind of thatch thing. And he said, 'You see that snake up there? I want you to kill it.'" And then Prabhupada turned to Haridas and said, "Because I killed that snake, now I have to save so many snakes like you. So that was one interesting thing. And, it kind of puts us in our place as well. So different devotees would have these memories, and they would just solidify what Prabhupada's position really is. And it illuminates the position that we were in, of course. Not yourselves, you're all born in the Vedic culture, and you all have this. Prabhupada said, for the Indian people, Krishna consciousness is just below the surface. You just have to scratch, and it's there. So you're all very fortunate. So we're just, Prabhupada was in a meeting with life members, and he was telling Ramanda, not that one, he was calling, whatever the verse is, that people from India should make their lives perfect, and they should spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So Prabhupada said, it's the duty of the Indians. He said, but they're not coming forward. They're not coming forward. Even at that time, Prabhupada had Haridas and Lokanath Maharaj, or Lokanath, that was about it for Indian devotees. Everyone else was a Westerner. He says, it's the duty of the Indians, but they're not coming forward. So then he said to them, so I have to use these Westerners. I have to use these Westerners. So, Prabhupada was very good at utilizing, as Lord Ramachandra used the monkeys and bears. Prabhupada used us to just get things to this point. Now it's your turn. It's your turn. We were reading in the 6th canto about Mars Prachinabhari. And there's one purport where Prabhupada is talking about a man can be a hero. A man can be a hero one of two ways. He can be a material hero. He can make lots of money, or he become very politically powerful or famous, rich mostly, like that. Or he can become a spiritual hero. A spiritual hero, which means that he carries Krishna consciousness. He follows his guru very carefully. Now we also know in the 6th canto it says that the woman is the inspiration for a man. Aha, what's he getting to? What's he getting to? So, one may be a material hero, but that passes. That passes. But one can become a spiritual hero by following the instructions of the Guru, the instructions of the Parama Guru, and spreading Krishna consciousness everywhere. Then one becomes a spiritual hero. So we know, of course, we were in Chatsworth, and big festival there, and we know who did all the work. They were the ladies. The ladies did all the work. Well, most of it anyway. So, being a householder myself, I don't have any qualms. I better not, especially when I'm speaking to one particular lady. So, but the ladies are the backbone of Krishna consciousness. It won't get done unless you get a lady doing it. Maharani was telling us that in Vrindavan, Dham even, it's an interesting story, but I think I can just keep it brief, that ladies aren't allowed on the altar in Vrindavan. They're not allowed. But she was allowed in the quarters where the deity's garments are kept in. And it was filthy. Because they think the altar must be clean, but the rest can be whatever it is. So she actually went in there and started cleaning it. It was a disaster. But the men are thinking, no, it's clean, what's the problem? And they move a little dust, and that's it, like that. So, Shuddhakirti ruined his good wife for trying to raise the standards there, because it's a problem. In India, India's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place. You have so many bogus Babajis and you know, and then you still have to be careful that you don't commit any offense. So the Pujari goes to Radha Damodar, goes to Radha Raman, and they're doing this. We won't mention some of the crazy things they do. But they come back to ISKCON and think, well, we can do that too. But it's not Prabhupada's standard. Prabhupada had very distinct, clear standards that were like lines in stone, like Chaitanya Maharaj's sadhana. So, so Prabhupada didn't want them changed. Not for someone who just goes to this temple or that temple, and they're doing this and that. That wasn't Prabhupada's mood. You do what I say you do, and don't change it. Don't add, don't subtract. So, where was I going with that one? No. So, it's important. So the ladies, we're back to the ladies. The ladies are very important because they can inspire the men. They can inspire the men. So we're hoping that the ladies, in whatever way possible, encourage their men to get forward. They say behind every famous man there's a great woman. So we need that. We all need that. So watch out, man. They'll be on your cases, man. So you're supposed to lead. You're supposed to lead. And they'll get the benefit. You get the benefit of whatever spiritual activities they perform. Okay. And then you get the benefit of their protection as well. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I never met a stand that worked anywhere. It's tradition. Yes. They're all 50 years old anniversary as well. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachana Nirvisesa Sindhari Paskita Dev Satamani Panchakalpa Tiruvascha Kripa Sindhurya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna. This is my first time here. Prabhupada was here 50 years ago today, yes? Yes? Yes. Yes. It's so wonderful hearing my godbrothers, and I never knew Maharaj was so funny. I never heard that story before about the stool talking back in the face. But Prabhupada did. His jokes generally, when he would tell these jokes, they were usually about stool and urine. And us Westerners, he would tell them and he would laugh and we would just sit there and where did that come from? So many things that both of them said conjured up things that I wanted to say, but my wife took my phone, so I wasn't able to write anything down, and I have no memory at all. But when he did say behind every great man there's a woman, I said, yes, nagging her husband. In India, when Prabhupada was here in the 70s, early 70s, one of his disciples, he was from the UK, British disciple, he was very happy. He told Prabhupada he was learning Hindi. Prabhupada said, why? He said, well, I can preach to the Indians. Prabhupada said, I've been preaching to them my whole life. I haven't made one devotee. What are you going to do? At that time, yes. But we were the dancing white elephants. You know, I remember traveling with Prabhupada from Calcutta to Mayapur in particular, and getting halfway towards Mayapur, stopping for petrol. That's all you had to do, stop.
And within 5 minutes, there'd be 50 Bengalis just looking at us, looking at these white people in dhotis, tilak shaved heads. They couldn't understand. How was it possible? Where did these people come from? On that one trip, Prabhupada, he was also very funny. Prabhupada was very funny. So we're on that trip and Gargamuni was driving. Prabhupada was in the back seat. I'm sitting next to him. And Gargamuni was driving, and I think next to him was Rupanuga Prabhu. Anyway, Gargamuni, he drove a little fast in the Ambassador. You remember, that was the car in India. Ambassador, that was it. Fiat taxis and Ambassadors, which you could get in any color you wanted, as long as it was white or tan. And we're driving, Gargamuni's driving in the car, and there were workers on the road, which means there's no machines, there's just these very dark Bengali-looking workers with picks and shovels. And they were doing road repair, like pothole repair. Anyway, Gargamuni somehow he sideswiped one of the workers. And of course, as soon as he did it, he slowed down. And Prabhupada from the back seat said, "Keep going." Because he knew what could happen. It was a scary situation. He said, "Keep going." And as we're going ahead, and the ones in front, they just lined up across the road, about 10 of them, with their picks and shovels, and they just blocked the road. So of course, Prabhupada said, "Stop." So we stopped, and I guess one of the foreman, he comes to the car, and Prabhupada rolls down the rear window, and he's yelling, and Prabhupada's yelling back at him, and they're going back and forth in Bengali, and I'm just sitting next to Prabhupada thinking, what's going to happen, And goes back and forth for a few minutes, and Prabhupada says, "Give him 10 rupees. 10 rupees. So Gargamuni, of course, takes out a 10 rupee, gives it, Prabhupada gives him the 10 rupees. And then it continued. Man yelling and screaming, and Prabhupada's talking, and he's yelling and screaming. And Prabhupada said, "Give him 10 more rupees." So he gave him 10 more rupees. Prabhupada rolled up the window. He said, "Now go." He said, "And carefully." So then we took off carefully, but that was experience with Prabhupada. It cost us 20 rupees then in 1973 to go ahead after hitting this worker on the road. So you never knew what was going to happen with Prabhupada. I love stories about Prasadam, and I thought there's some of my favorite stories with Srila Prabhupada are about Prasadam, as he heard that one today. I just heard that one myself recently about that. It was Prabhupada picking out. Didn't waste. He said, "You'll take birth for every grain of rice you leave on your plate." That's how precious Krishna Prasadam is to be taking. Where Prabhupada, and except for going on programs, always ate alone. And if there was anyone in the room, if he was sitting behind his desk, if I was coming in with the plate, his lunch, and then Prabhupada immediately would get up. As soon as Prasadam appears, everything else stops. I heard he once said, "You don't interrupt unless it's $10,000 is at stake," and you could interrupt them for Prasadam. So as soon as I would bring in the plate, Prabhupada would get up, and the devotees would be standing there by the desk or sitting there. Prabhupada would walk to his plate, and he would take a piece of Prasadam from his plate, a sweet or something, a piece of fruit, and he would hand it to the one, and hand it and say, "Now you can go." That was it, finished. And he faced the wall, sitting on just a straw mat or a little piece of carpet. He would face the wall. There was no talking, no conversation with anyone. You can see the videos, Prabhupada taking Prasadam. You saw, we say, raised a Catholic, a sacrament. We had raised a Catholic, we had that little host, we called it, that little piece of bread, unleavened bread, it was sacred. They kept it behind the thing on the altar. You unlock it, everything. The body of Christ. It's the body of Krishna. Everything we eat, Krishna, Prashadam. And you could see that with Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Prashadam. Oil. It's a good topic. 1955, there's an article, you can look it up in Vedabase. Prabhupada talks about refined oil. Says it's cancer causing. 1955, he said that. He talks about the fire sacrifice to Yajna, offering ghee to the Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. He talks about the fire of digestion. The fire of digestion, Krishna. He said the vitamins, he says, comes from Krishna in the food that's offered as prasadam. He said that's where everything comes from. It's a really amazing article, way back 80 years ago now or something, whatever, 70 years ago. But in Bhaktivedanta Manor, very rarely when I was with Prabhupada, maybe 4 or 5 times, half a dozen times, he would go to some life member's house or something, always Indians. In the West, in the US, he never went out to eat, as some life members, there weren't any. But in England, some Indians were there. In India, it would happen, they would invite Prabhupada, and he didn't like to do it. But sometimes he would do it. If he saw that it would help in his mission, he would do it. And of course, at the manor, his famous devotee was there, Karuna Dakshai, Shira Dakshai, his son. So he invited Prabhupada to the house, which meant all the devotees, which were about 20 devotees. In my book, there's a picture of that program. Prabhupada sitting in the center, just on a cushion on the floor. We're all sitting on the floor with carpet in front of us, sheets in front of us, everyone being served. We loved it because it meant feast day. You know, otherwise every day we ate very simple. Sunday was the feast, Sunday feast. And in those days, as you know, there were very, very wonderful feasts. Puris, halva, tomato chutney, samosas, cauliflower pakoras, strawberry malpura, and so many wonderful things. But now if you're going to some life member's house, they're going to give you a feast. So his disciples, we were happy to go out and have nice prasadam any day during the week as well. But we were getting ready to go. And even I heard a rumor there before we went there. They're cooking in oil. That was unheard of. All of ISKCON, everywhere ghee. Every temple we made ghee. You didn't buy ghee, there was no ghee to buy except Australia. They had big metal containers you could buy of ghee. That's another story. But we would make ghee from butter. Literally had no money, very little money in the temple. Distributing Back to Godhead magazines for 25 cents. Everything was a struggle, but we had ghee. I said, now we have lots of money, but no ghee. So anyway, I heard a rumor floating around, and everything. We didn't have cell phones, no smartphones, no tech, but you heard everything just like that. You know, within minutes, everyone heard what's going on. They're cooking oil. And that was unheard of. I was the only person in ISKCON that had oil, mustard oil, for massage. That was it. I traveled around the world. I had to have my bottle of mustard oil for Prabhupada's body. But everything was cooked in ghee. So anyway, we go to the program, and it was a feast, puris, halva, nice sabjis, paneer, all these things. And then we come back, and Prabhupada after lunch took his nap, half an hour. And then I hear the bell ring. Prabhupada was very funny. So I go in and offer obeisances, and he's quizzing me. So, everyone liked the program? Yes, Prabhupada. Everything was okay. He's already getting something out of me, but I don't know it yet. I haven't figured out where this is going. But he's going somewhere. Everything is okay? Everyone is okay? And I said, oh. Then, finally hit me, my brain, real brain. And I said, oh. I said, Prajumna, I said. He doesn't feel well. He's got indigestion. And he said that, because they cooked in oil. And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, but Prajumna ate 10 puris. He's just sitting there at the head of the table. And you don't know, he sees everything going on, what everyone's doing. He knows what you're eating, how much you're eating. And then I thought, oh yes. I said, well, Prabhupada, I said, maybe. I said, but I knew they were cooking in oil. And I said, I hardly ate anything because of it. He said, that's true. He said, you didn't eat much. He said, but you did eat 4 puris. Who is this person? He's counting our puris. That was Prabhupada. But he called me in because he wanted to talk about it. He wanted to have a little fun with his disciples. So we were there at that time for 2 months. Vedanta Manor. They had just gotten the manor from George Harrison. And there was hardly anyone there. It was a huge place. And there were like 12 devotees doing everything. Everyone had their own room, though. That was nice. We had so many rooms were there. Everyone had their own room. I had a big room right across from Prabhupada. And Janmashtami was there, right, when he installed the deities. And then, of course, next day, Vyas Puja. So, we know what we did, especially us being with Prabhupada. We would always hear Prabhupada on the Vyasa-san, practicing austerities, bare minimum, bare necessities you take, eat less, sleep less. We heard this all the time. This was Krishna consciousness. Just service. Prabhupada would say, service, you never get tired doing devotional service. You're always enthusiastic. One who does service never gets tired. I'm still working on that, figuring out that process. So Janmashtami is there, and I fast all day, all night. I have to massage Prabhupada. Midnight comes, Artik's there. I attend the Artik, and afterwards, I don't know what they were serving, but I hardly ate anything, a little fruit salad, because I wasn't hungry. When you fast, that's what happens. The longer you fast, your hunger goes away. So I ate a little bit. Then the next day's Prabhupada's Vyas Puja day. It was a wonderful day. Big devotees were there. Sannyasis, GBC came from France and Germany. Bhaktivedanta Manor, sannyasis. And Prabhupada gave a lecture and he glorified his disciples. Starting with Prajumna. He said, Panditji. He said, practically speaking, he said, Panditji has done Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prajumna Prabhu. And his wife, Arundhati, she did all the transcribing, he said. He's glorifying them on his Vyas Puja day. And then devotees, Prabhupada would pick one, say something, and I'm sitting right there next to him all the time when this would happen. I'm thinking, I hope he doesn't ask me to say anything. I never knew what to say. Would have been the easiest. Is all I had to do was say anything. This morning he did this, he ate this. Would have been so easy. Everyone would have been delighted. But I was always afraid to speak. So then that day comes. And you see there's a video, Bhaktivedanta Manor, you should see that video following Srila Prabhupada. August or so, 1973. And he's sitting on the floor, just on a little cushion. And there's like 10 plates in front of him. Yadabar, he's filming it from the side. And you see Prabhupada just so sweetly, like looking here, picks something from this plate, puts it in his mouth, and he picks something from this plate, something from this plate. So that after his lunch, finally now it's like 2 o'clock, it's my turn to take prasadam. And again, I wasn't very hungry. Fasting till midnight, fasting till 2 in the afternoon. So I ate a little bit. Prabhupada takes a nap. Then the bell rings. I go in, I offer obeisances. I'm sitting in front of Prabhupada. He looks at me. He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yes, Prabhupada, I'm okay." He said, "You're okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." He said, "You look very thin." It goes like this, you know. I said, "Oh," I said, "Well," I said, "you know, yesterday was a fast day. Today was a fast day." I said, "I didn't eat very much." He looks at me. He said, "You have to give me massage every day." He said, "You have to be strong." He said, "How are you going to do your service if you don't eat?" "Yes, Prabhupada." He said, "You should eat whatever you can digest. That's what you should do. Whatever you can digest, that's what you eat," he said. So it was so funny. He would, you know, on the Vyasa he was always telling us how to decrease all our material activities, our eating, our sleeping. But with you, with us, whatever you needed to do, that's what you do, he said. Now we see, this age, you eat less, happens automatically. You sleep less, have to get up every couple hours just to go pass urine in the middle of the night. Sleeping is something very special. The best prasadam story, maybe some of you have heard it, puffed rice. Anyone know the puffed rice? Prabhupada was in Mexico City. There, Hridayananda had to translate all his classes. 1 week he was in Mexico City, 1975, February. And Prabhupada would speak, and then Hridayananda would translate, go back and forth. And the same thing, Prabhupada's saying, the end of life, you have to remember Krishna. Everything we're doing is to bring us to the point, the time of death. So you remember Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada's speaking like that. So at the end of the class, these classes where Prabhupada got translated there in Caracas, at the end there were question and answers. That didn't happen very often where Prabhupada would take questions. He did it there, he did it in Australia. So at the end, it was an older lady. I say older because we're all 20 years older, so this woman was like 40 or something, you know, in Mexico. It was ancient. The parents of devotees were joining. They were very pious, Mexican. They were kind of like Indians, but ate meat. Of course, now all you Indians also here, they eat meat, so not so different. But they were pious people. They were God-fearing, believed in God. And she raised her hand and said, "Prabhupada, what happens if we don't remember Krishna at the time of death, but we remember you?" And Prabhupada smiled. He said, "That's all right." What do we know? You think of Prabhupada, all we know is Krishna. He said to one devotee, "I love Krishna, you love me, or you love Krishna." He said the transference is there. So this is the duty of the spiritual master. Prabhupada made everyone love him. He made him by being so wonderful, by giving us everything. He was always giving. Kept telling me. Many times he would tell me, eat more. He would see Yadubara. You ever seen Yadubara? Say, "Eat, are you okay?" He would say, "Eat." So anyway, we leave Mexico City. And this Mataji, she made Prabhupada one of his favorite preparations. Moody. You know moody? Puffed rice. Puffed rice and peanuts. Not peas, peanuts. It was puffed rice and peanuts. Little spice, some hing, little turmeric, fried in ghee. Fried in ghee. And she had it wrapped in aluminum foil, just in a brown paper bag, very simple. Whenever Prabhupada flew, always we took prasadam with us, always. So now I have this bag, and we get on this plane, South American Airlines. We're going from Mexico City to Caracas, Venezuela. It's a few hours, maybe 3-4 hours. And Prabhupada, just like with the toothpick, he was very regulated everywhere he went. His schedule, you were with him for some time, you knew what to do, when to do it. Like he said, first-class servant knows what to do without being asked. Because he always did the same thing. It's one of the symptoms of pure devotee, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He showed you, he wrote down his schedule, this time chanting, this time reading, this time little meal, little fruit, everything. Prabhupada was very much the same. Every day, same thing. Even though he's traveling around the world, time zones are changing everywhere he goes, and he still maintained the same schedule. He would set his watch, boom, that's it. I'm in this place, and he would pick up the schedule, same way. And when he went on the plane, everything was also the same. Where did he sit? I always say, window seat. Always sat at the window seat. Never in any other seat. Sat at the window seat. And who sits next to him? His servant. That was one thing I was told. Prabhupada rings the bell, you go in the room. Prabhupada's on the airplane, you sit next to him. Prabhupada's in the car, you sit next to him. They were the only 3 things they told me. I said, now we have classes for everything, right? You want to be a guru, you got to go to guru seminars. You want to be a disciple, you got to go to disciple courses. Bhakti Shastra courses. Japa courses. Japa retreats. Even Japa 1 retreat, Japa 2 retreat. Prabhupada, many times brahmacharis would come in chanting japa. This is one of the most, difficult things. Controlling our mind. Chanting, right? Being inattentive while chanting. Imagine to be attentive all the time while you're chanting the holy name. Prabhupada, how do I control my mind? I heard 3 different times, same thing. Prabhupada, how do I control my mind when I chant japa? Prabhupada said, same answer. He said, there's no question of mind. You chant with the tongue, you went like that. You chant with your tongue, and you hear with your ears. Every time he did the exact same thing. He bypassed, right? We figured a mind somewhere in here. So you chant with the tongue, you hear with the ears. I said, shortest japa class ever. Don't have to fill your head, I should do this, I should do this. No, chant and hear, Prabhupada said, that's all. Don't have to try to imagine anything, you don't have to try to see Krishna, think of past. Chant and hear. Prabhupada said always the same thing. Prabhupada, he was so simple. Vrindavan, a devotee, asked, I heard Mahatma Gandhi, when he was shot, his final words were, Ram. Is that true, Prabhupada? He said, I don't know, I wasn't there. It's simple. Where's Sumeru Mountain? Somebody asked. Prabhupada, where's Sumeru Mountain? He said it's in the sky. That's all, in the sky. Simple. So he's sitting on the plane, on the window seat. I'm sitting next to him. At this time I'm a grahasta, white cloth, and still shaved head, tilak. Next to me is Paramahamsa Swami, his secretary. Saffron cloth, wear shaved head. This is 1975. So the plane takes off, and after 5-10 minutes, bing, fasten seatbelt light goes off. What does that mean? Prasadam. As soon as that light goes off, it means the table can come down. It's time to have prasadam. Every time, same thing. I never had to think of what to do. The light goes off, okay, get the bag. Prabhupada's ready for prasadam. You think you like prasadam? Prabhupada loved prasadam. That's in our sampradaya. We like prasadam. We're following in Prabhupada's footsteps. So I put his table down, put my table down, pick up the little brown paper bag, take this aluminum foil out of the bag. I didn't even know what was in there. Open it up, it's puffed rice. So I just slide it over in front of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, of course, the way he also honored prasadam was so sweet. Just always say, everything he did, you could watch him and become Krishna conscious. Just by seeing how he did everything. Putting his tilak on, everything. There was consciousness, focus. So he puts in, he would pop it into his mouth and chew. He was chewing. Always say his mother would have been very proud of him. He chewed his food very well. Chewing. And he ate half of it. Just puffed rice. Prabhupada said puffed rice was innocent. That means you can eat this much. It's not going to give you indigestion. It's puffed rice. Very simple. But he ate half of it. Why? Because he has these two disciples next to him. They don't have anything to eat. So he ate half and then he said, okay, you take. So now I move it over to my plate. I put Prabhupada's plate up, his table up, and I make it in two halves, rip the aluminum foil in half, and I give half to Paramahamsa Swami, who's on the aisle seat. I'm in the middle. Now Paramahamsa and I were taking Prabhupada's Maha Prasadam. We ate Prabhupada's Maha Prasadam every day. Sometimes a little bit, sometimes more than a little bit. But every day we would get his remnants. So now we're both taking prasadam, and Prabhupada just sitting there, very peacefully, and this young stewardess walking down the aisle. She never seen anyone like us. No one saw anyone like us before. And she stops right in front of Paramahamsa Swami. She just stops. And she gets her hand and puts it in my plate and grabs a handful of puffed rice and throws it in her mouth. And then she looks at me. She said, "This is very good. What is it?" Of course, I'm a little bit in shock. No one ever put their hand in my plate except my wife. She does. She took from my plate Prabhupada's Mahaprasadam. She doesn't know any of us. But she saw the puffed rice and she just threw it in her mouth, somehow or other. Paramahamsa, he's eating. He doesn't even know what's going on. Prabhupada, he's usually focused straight ahead. He doesn't react to it at all. So she's saying, "What is it?" I said, "It's puffed rice." She says, "Well, why are you all eating this now?" I said, "Well, we're vegetarian, you know." And she says, "Well, can I get you anything else?" She said, "I can go up into first class," she said, "and get you if you want something." So I turned to Prabhupada, who's sitting there by the window. I said, "Prabhupada, you want anything?" He looks at me. He doesn't look at her. He looks at me. I was the translator. He says, "Hot milk." So I said, "We'll all have hot milk." She said, "Can I get you anything else?" She said, "Do we have fruit, cheese, bread?" I said, "Prabhupada?" He said, "Yes." Good. Okay. I said, "We'll all have fruit, cheese." Whatever he does, we do. At least the fun things. Not necessarily the austere things, but the fun things. If Prabhupada wants to eat, we're all going to eat whatever he eats. So she goes up into the front. I turned to Prabhupada. I said, "Prabhupada, that was amazing." And he said, women have natural tendency to serve. He didn't respond to her taking his Mahaprasadam. He responded to her wanting to take care of us. See, that's your advantage. Women, you're in a better position because you have a natural tendency to serve. And you use that to serve Krishna, to serve the devotees. While the men sit there and very happy to take service. In Calcutta, there was one chanting party, not Hare Krishna devotees, but always, that's why we didn't do Harinam in India, because people did it for money. Prabhupada didn't want us in the street because you look like you're beggars, chanting for money. We don't chant for money. But they came up and they were chanting. We were up on the first floor, veranda at Calcutta Temple. So the devotees are all looking out the veranda watching these people chant. And Prabhupada came under the veranda. He said, now you have to give them something. He said, you're taking from them. You're enjoying them. He said, you have to pay them. He said, otherwise you have to come back next life to fulfill that. So this is everything, material world. A very frightening place. Don't accept service from anyone. You give, then you can reciprocate. Devotees, that's what we do. We reciprocate. So anyway, she comes back down after 5 minutes. She cut up fruit and everything very nicely. We had fruit and cheese, little bread. We're all eating very nicely. So that was incredible. So I always figured it had to be super soul. Anyway, I told that story many times over the years. One time it was like 1995, 20 years later. I'm in New Dwarka telling the story. And I spoke for an hour or so. And after I was done, class was done, this devotee comes up to me, Brazilian devotee. He said, can I tell you a story? I said, okay. So he said, we were regularly in those days going out on Harinam Sankirtan. This is how we all came. Harinam, book distribution. This is where all the devotees came from. And he said, we would go everywhere in jeeps because the roads weren't very good. Brazil, these places, dirt roads, muddy roads, rocky roads. So they had jeeps. And they would go from village to village. And they would go to this village square. Usually there's a little fountain in there. And they would do Harinam, Sankirtan. And then they would get back in their jeeps. And they drive off. You go to one farm, another farm. You bang on the door. And try to sell Prabhupada's books. Try to give Prabhupada's books to these people out in the rainforest of Brazil. So he said, one day we're doing that. He said, I don't know, we're somewhere in Brazil, out in the jungles. And we go to the town center, have Harinam Sankirtan. He said, then I get in the Jeep, and we're driving, and I stop at one place. So it's like a farm. And walk up the path, and he bangs on the door, knocks on the door. And a woman answers the door and says, Hare Krishna. She sees him, dhoti, kurta, shaved head, tilak. She says, Hare Krishna, come on in. And he's shocked. This is the middle of nowhere. Talk about every town and village. This was every town and village. This was a village no one ever been to. So he goes into the house, this little farmhouse, and sees a picture of Prabhupada, wearing a tie. He said, and she's just dressed regularly. He said, you're a devotee. She said, yes. She said, well, how did you meet the devotees? She said, well, I was an airline stewardess. It was the woman that took the Mahaprasadam from Prabhupada's plate on the airline, go on the way to Caracas. And then after she did that, and later on she met devotees in the airport. where else is she going to meet devotees? We were in every airport all over the world distributing Prabhupada's books. She took a book. She was initiated. Some years ago, she came to the Vrindavan temple. I wish I wasn't there. I haven't seen her. At the time I was like 23 years old, she was probably the same. But this is the potency of Srila Prabhupada. And imagine, Maha Prashadam she took, just spontaneously, whimsically. Prabhupada then became devotee of Krishna. So this is our business. Prashadam, so important. No one ever left Prabhupada's room without getting prashadam. Not even the monkeys. They would come and steal prashadam from Prabhupada's room. But this was the potency of Srila Prabhupada, and it goes on to this day. And in this ISKCON society, all we have to do is do what Prabhupada said, do as Prabhupada did. He would say that all the time to the leaders. Just do as I'm doing. Nothing else. He said you don't have to add, as Prabhu said, you don't have to subtract. Just do as I'm doing, and the potency is there in Srila Prabhupada's society. So for me, I'm very happy to be here 50 years later after Srila Prabhupada came. And Maharaj said I'd be very happy to come again and again and again if it all works out that way. And just try to share a little bit. There's so much. As they were talking, there were so many things I was thinking about, what to say this, say this, say this. But I thought Prashadam, very special. I don't know, should we stop here? Kind of, who's running the show here?
Yes.
Yes? We could stop here. Any questions for the...
Any questions?
Or everyone wants Prashadam now.
We'll do Damodarastika.
Damodarashtakam, okay.